There's a problem with the boy child. We keep getting told this over and over again. But now studies are beginning to confirm that in fact, there could just be a problem with the male children, not just in our environment, not just in our society, but in fact the world over. Studies are beginning to show that boys are failing in the sciences, that they are becoming more absent in schools, that they are not proceeding to tertiary education at the same rate at which girls are, and they're not applying themselves in the same way. But what exactly is the problem with the boy child? And is there a problem with the boy child, or is it a problem with society generally? Now, the University of Nairobi's Institute of Anthropology conducted a recent study in which one of the things that they found was that the issues of boys and underperformance, boys and increased truism, is a problem that is not just related to boys specifically. It's not like a gender problem. It's not a DNA problem. It's a problem that is linked with the environment. It's a problem that's linked with their society. And it's a problem that's linked with the economy. Well, we wanted to have a conversation about that and much more. So let's do exactly that. My name is Renee Ngamau, and welcome to the show. Now on the show today, we have Big Ted. You are known so well as Big Ted that I'm afraid I'm not even sure I know your last name.
My real name is actually Thomas Kwaka.
There you go.
Yeah, Kwaka. And just in case anybody wants to check, you can send me on Pesa. The number very good.
No, the number will not be shown below here. But welcome on to the show today. And of course, Flavor Mangoli, welcome to the show as well.
Thank you very much, Renee.
Is there a problem with the boy child, or is this just men thinking, well, me too. We've made such great advances with the girl child. We know the issues that affect the girl child: tradition, discrimination on the basis of gender, religion that puts them down, and finances that don't pay them equal pay for equal work and don't give them the same opportunities. What's the boy child's problem?
Well, I think to start us off, I think there's always a good relation when you have a child, a last born for a long time, then you get another kid. There's always a reaction to the kid who was the apparent last born. And I think what happened is that we switched attention from the boy to the girl. And that has affected a whole generation. And we're only finding out now after we have been through a whole generation. So what we're trying to do is actually to try and repair the damage that has come at the last part of this century. So yes, there is a problem with the boy child. There is a problem with the man. There's a problem with the male, and I think it's issues which need to be addressed. Some of them have been there since time immemorial, but probably we just never looked at them in terms of the wholeness of the whole situation and the whole issue.
Flavor, what would you categorize as the problem? You know, in the same way that we can sort of count education of the girl child, early marriages and forced marriages have been the problem with the girl. What exactly is the root cause of what we're seeing now? With truancy, with less performance, with less self-application from the boys, increased drug. What exactly is the root problem, and is there one?
Yes, thanks, Renee. And I think what Ted has said is very fundamentally true in the sense that the boy child has been abdicated. We've taken a lot of focus and actually given that to the girl child at the expense of the boy child. And the boy child has been relegated to a secondary role or a secondary place in society. The girl child then has been enhanced, equipped, concentrated upon, and they have actually reason to be very, very, strong character-wise in society. Forcing the boy child to actually look at the girl child with a lot of trepidation and fear. Right these days, even dating is a thing of the past. The man used to do take the lead role, but the boys nowadays don't know how to date. They don't know how to treat women as ladies. They are very wimpy. They are wimpish in everything that they do, and this has resulted in society having very, very destroyed, so to speak, boys and dysfunctional boys in society. And what is aggravating the issue even further is the fact that the men in society are not taking their role as leaders they have abdicated this role and they are busy actually sharpening each other's egos in bars, in sporting gigs that they're not even incorporating the young boys into. So there's no mentoring per se that is going on, or passing on of knowledge, skills, and stuff like that to the boy child, and equipping the boy child to be the leader, to be the head, to be able to make valid decisions and actually be able to actually consolidate the society and gravitate the society towards common goals. And so we are seeing a very disconnected society where the boy child is just there. They're just existing. They're not taking initiative. They're not taking any leadership roles. They're not proud of who they are, even of their identity. There are lost folk who don't have identity, who don't have anything to wake up to every day in the morning. And I think that has resulted, that comes as a result of being the men in society not being the men that God called them to be. They are not taking their rightful role in society.
Dysfunctional boys, absent men. The next obvious question there is, so what were men meant to be? What is your definition of
a man is supposed to be a leader. You are commissioned by God to lead. And it is a very, very serious position in society. If you're not leading, then it's obvious if you've given them the girl child and empowered her, she will then take that role. But that's not how it was meant to be.
Hold on, let me interrupt you.
I actually think that God set us a man to be two things. Number one, to be a priest, and two, to be a king. That is God's purpose for the man. If you look, and I'll refer to the Bible, that before anything happened, when God created the world and he saw everything was good, is when he brought in man. And he gave man a particular responsibility before even the woman showed up. Now, what was he told to do? Man was told to subdue the earth and to work at the earth. That was his first instruction. And then after that, God brought the woman into the picture. Now, the surprising thing is, anytime man abdicates his role, which is to subdue the earth, which is to develop the earth, which is to make sure that he gets from the earth or to work, and chases woman, that he's lost his first responsibility. So what's happening with many men is that we're not actually going at what God told us to do. We're not in our completion stage. We're not in our wholesome stage. All we're doing is chasing things and not focusing on the thing that God told us to do. Now, what has happened in the world? What has happened is we look at the woman and decide, okay, these women are getting this, so I want to do this, so I want to do that. But God gave us a particular direction which he only did us to follow. So what happens is man ends up in a very confused state because he's chasing something which he was not told to do. So what happens is that we have a trickle-down effect. The trickle-down effect happens this way, that because this man, let's imagine he's 40 years or 50 years, because he has no particular direction, then it trickles down to who he's growing or who comes after him, who does it look up to. If you ask yourself, many of the boys who are growing up in this generation, who is their role model? Who do they look up to? Who do they say that, I would love to be like that guy? So you ask, who is this person who they look up to, or when they have an issue, who is that one person they say that I can call this guy and this guy will give me advice? Who do they trust with everything that they're going through? If they're going through a hard time, a heartbreak, who will they call and say that this guy will actually give me a correct perspective of life?
Ted, isn't that the problem? That we now expect boys to call other people when they're having heartbreak. We've had millennia of men taking up their quote-unquote so-called role as the high priest, as the king, and see where that has led us. I mean, we don't even want to go down the environmental route. And even today, and even in this country that we're sitting in, we are, de facto, a male-led country, a male-led society, a male-led economy, a male-led land tenure. The issue is not that leadership has been taken away from the men, is it?
I think it's more of empowerment. If you look at it right now, statistics are showing us that there are more women, in very good sense, I'm not actually belittling it, but more women who are in school, even if you go to evening school, you'll find more women in that particular area. Now, what happened is this, is that the man concentrated too much on trying to sort these things out and forgot this other part. So society is slowly replacing the male. It's slowly replacing the male. For a very long time in this country, you would not necessarily have women in very high positions. But we're living in an era whereby, yes, it may not necessarily be 50% or 60% or 70%, but there's a big growth in terms of the woman being more empowered than the man. Now, that is leaving the man pretty much confused, number one. And as I speak from a man's perspective, you know, maybe the woman can see it differently. They see it, maybe it's a right, the right to lead, the time to lead and everything. But I speak from a man's perspective, whereby a man is now being led by a woman, a man is now being seen everything. When you go home, the woman is now wearing the trousers, and there's a whole paradigm shift. But who prepared us for that?
Who prepared us for that? In fact, it's not the problem that this is an either-or conversation flavor, that either the boy child or the girl child, either the woman in leadership or the man in leadership. There seems to be no option where both genders can grow, can flourish, and that they can be regarded as human beings, not regarded first based on the size of your chest or, you know, your anatomy, but really because you have something to contribute. Is this the problem with the boy child and with the abdicating men? That they feel, in fact, that, you know, okay, if women are going to do it, then we're just going to stand in the corner and cry.
That's a good question, Renee. My view on that is simple. Men, and I keep saying this, men have abdicated their role. If men were stepping up to the sport, you see, I always say that any woman who aspires to do what a man does or wants to compete with a man, they lack ambition. Men are very fickle in terms of balancing out things. They know how to lead and strengthen and uphold. Women are amazing. They can juggle very many things at the same time. They can feed a child, ensure the husband's food is cooked, ensure that fees is taken care of, the house is clean. All these things they can juggle at the same time and come out winning. Very few men can actually do that. Men are actually protectors. Like Ted said, they're priests. And also they're providers. They're supposed to be protectors. You know, I mean, that's their role. Now, in absence of these roles in society, women are actually stepping up in those roles. And what that is doing is that it's shifting the paradigm. And that shifting the paradigm, then we are seeing now women coming up as providers, protectors, and priests, so to speak, even. So that leaves the boy child with no one to look up to in terms of gender, you know, and in terms of mentorship, in terms of growing up to be like. And like Ted said, role models. When we were growing up, our role models were our fathers. I want to grow up and be like my dad. These days, when you ask a child, who's your role model? They will say Justin Timberlake. They will say Kanye West. They will say, all these media, superstars. But do they even know what Kanye does in his idle time off camera? They don't know. But they're seeing all this glamour on camera, and that's what they want to be. That's who they want to be like. And that is creating a very falsified state in society. It's a vacuum. It's a conundrum that is empty. There's emptiness in that view. So if the man, not even the boy child, the man would step up and take their responsibility, mentor each other, peer-to-peer mentoring, and go a step down and start mentoring the young men in society all the way to the boy child, we will see a shift again where societies are actually having stronger bonds. There's respect for the woman. There is a place where a man is not threatened by a woman coming up, and they see the woman as a supportive role. Listen, when God was building the world, when he was creating the world, everything he did, he said, it is good, it is good, it is good. But when he had finished forming man, he actually now said it is not good for man to be alone. Thus, they needed a support system, support mechanism, and that's where the woman came in. After all that, then he said, it is all good.
It's interesting to me that both of you have taken on a very strongly religious angle, and the dominant religion here being Christianity. But Christianity itself has been used over and over to as a tool to suppress not just the independence of people, but to take over land, to racially discriminate, and to discriminate on the basis of gender. I love what you said earlier, the role of the man as priest, provider, and protector. In fact, it's deteriorated beyond that, hasn't it? And it's not just an issue of the boy child. As we shall see when we come back, The issue is becoming one of families that are without protection, of families that are without provision, of families who now have someone who is different as the priest. The churches today are full of women. In fact, if I dare say so, gentlemen, a bit tongue-in-cheek, in the case of the churches, it is the women who are doing everything but stand on the pulpit. And in the homes, it seems very much like it's the woman who is praying for the man, not the man praying for the family. We'll come back in a bit, and when we do, we see a bit about what the abdication of men in their own roles, if I might use this term, abdication of men in their role, has done to families, and what it is doing to render families asunder in a very, very sad way. Don't go away.
Nairobi County has made it easy for me to pay my land rates. I use Ijiji Pay. No hassle, no time wasted. I got important things to do. Thank you.
Mimi sipagi line kwa Kajo kulipa business permit. Natumia Ijiji Pay.
Life has become so easy with Ijiji Pay. I don't have to look for parking attendants. It's payment chap chap. Mara hiyo hiyo.
Time is money. Save your time by paying for your car parking, rentals, business permits, land rates and construction rates to the Nairobi City County government using Ijiji Pay. Access Ijiji Pay on your mobile phone by dialing *217# or on your computer by logging on to epayments.nairobi.go.ke. Ijiji Pay means your right to expect service. Ijiji Pay. Malipo kwa urahisi.
Welcome back. My name is Renee Ngamau, and I am joined by Big Ted Kwaku, and also by Flavor Manguli. We're talking all about boy child, men child, from the sound of things, and the absolute waste that is being laid in the wake of what sounds like men who are just not taking up their responsibility. Now, before we went into a break, I said I would just point out to you some of the real issues that are beginning to come to the surface as a result of this. This isn't just about the boy child, and I don't think it should be. I think it's about families. Listen to this. Hi, moms. This is a post on Facebook. So yesterday night was a long night for the parents in my court, with the better part of the night spent at the police station. Reason? 2 9-year-old boys have been having sex with girls in the estate between 5 years to 2 years. How did we find out? After coming from work, my daughter tells me, "Mom, so-and-so told me to remove my trouser. I said no, and he pinched me. I told him my mom will beat him. So, Mommy, we go, you beat him." So as I was leaving the house, I was met with 6 small girls at my door and 2 older ones. And what they told me was earth-shattering. She goes on to say, so the older kids said, "Mom, so-and-so has been doing this to these girls at a stationary lorry that is in the parking. I visited the girls' houses and told the parents, and the girls narrated their ordeals. We all marched to the boy's house, found both parents, and things unfolded. The boy then mentioned his other 9-year-old accomplice. Twist: the boys have been sleeping with each other's sisters. One is 2 years old, the other is 3 years old. In short, no parent on the estate slept before 2 a.m. Gentlemen, one can't even begin to know where to start with something like this. But we're talking specifically about men today. And we could go down the, where was the mother, where was the father, where were the security officers, why was that car parked there for so long, etc. We could go down all those roads. But right now, where I'd love for us to go is the role of the man as protector. The role of the man as protector. This is a heart-rending story, but it's not the only one. One of the major things that we are battling with in this country is forced marriages, and marriages between teenage children, teenage girls, and older men. How do we get men to understand that they are protectors, number one? Number two, that they are not predators.
Well, let me take it. I think as you're talking, I'm on to basically just try and jog our mind a bit and try and find out some of the issues which we are seeing coming out, apart from the issue of early marriages, and is to go into the man's mind. One of the ways I'd like us to do this is to revisit the issue of which happened a couple of months ago, stripping of women. And I don't want to go into the issues of the campaign, but I want to go into the issues that led to these men doing what they did. As I watched those clips, I got disgusted because I was like, I kept on asking myself, don't these men have daughters? Don't they have mums or aunties? Don't they have female relatives who they want to protect? I remember what used to happen a long time ago. If anything would happen to you, either in town or anywhere, the guy next to you would actually stand up for you. Somebody in that crowd would have stood up and said, nobody is going to touch this lady. If it happened, you go to a club and you find guys fighting, maybe a lady or a guy beating up on a lady. Nobody stops. Everybody always looks and says, no, do this, and everybody takes sides. Nobody stops in and says, you shall not do this. Can it be that the man is tired? Can it be that the man is afraid? Can it be that the man is so scared of what's going on around him, he feels he's lost control? So the best thing that he can do is vent out on any woman. If not the beating, it will be through manipulation. Can it be that a man will decide that I will have 10 girls? That way he feels as a man that is actually conquering the womanfold. Can it be that the man is at a place whereby he doesn't understand what's going on around him? At the office, the bosses are women. At home, the wife is a boss. Anywhere he looks, it's still the wife. And the media is crying about the woman, that he feels alone. That now, when this happens, he will stand and watch. Do you want to tell me there was no good man in that whole group of people?
Well, there clearly was not any good man. That was
what happened to the man?
But you seem to say this as though it is a bad thing, that you would have a woman boss, or that you would have a woman who is in control. We're back to the same thing, that we're being judged on the base of gender.
No.
Why would not a corporation
Renee,
be run
I actually don't think it's that. It's not. I mean, I have bosses all around me who are women, and it changes nothing. The problem is we grew him up, or we raised him knowing this is the way things happen. Nobody told him there was a change of plan. Remember, he grew up in an era whereby the woman was not necessarily empowered. So he now is in a place whereby he feels empowered, but the woman is on top. Who will explain that to this particular guy?
Well, let's ask the question then, Flavor. Who will explain that to this particular guy who sounds, from Ted's description, like he grew up in a vacuum?
Well, my point is this. I mean, throwing again spanner into that toolbox again. Men, like Ted says, have grown knowing that the woman's place is in the kitchen. Over time, this has, of course, mutated. We are seeing more and more women in the boardroom and in, serious offices within corporations. And no one, in my opinion, has equipped the male child to understand that it's not about your gender. It's about your capabilities. You understand? And you don't need to have that inferiority, having a female boss or a female peer, and you're working together in an organization. The male child or the men in society have not accepted, and this, again, I go back to my point that the men in society and not preparing the young people or the young men who are coming up into responsible situations in life with the fact that the world is not about gender. It's not about male or female. However, as a man, you must understand that you need to be able to lead. You need to be able to provide, protect, and serve with dignity. And there is no problem with being vulnerable. It doesn't make you a weaker man by saying, I'm struggling in this area. How can you assist me? That I'm failing in this area. Can you please stand with me in prayer? And even weep and cry. There's no problem. You understand? But no, the way we are raised is that you ka sugu kama dume. You can't show tears. You can't show your weaknesses. And that eats you on the inside. And by the time it's coming out, you are totally destroyed. You're lost. You've not sought any help or support. Yet we can support each other. You know, like this Friday, it's a holiday. And we'll be gathering together as men at Caribbean just to be able to come together and share our successes, our weaknesses, our failures, our struggles, and see how we can stand with each other and support each other. And that's what men are supposed to do in society. The problem with the man is that it's always an ego contest. What kind of car are you driving? What kind of shoe are you wearing? What kind of suit are you wearing? Can I do better than you? Can I live in a better area than you're doing? And that really gives us a very false sense of competition. And in that competition, you get sidelined from your core purpose, which is being protector, provider, and priest in your homes and households. And that creates now that shift in the sense that there's emptiness in the home, there's emptiness in our children. And this is all because of the man. And that's what we need to address. You see, and it will not happen overnight. We will start this now. We are hoping that probably in the next 10, 15, 20 years, this paradigm will now shift and we'll see stronger men, more responsible men, men who can protect women without feeling intimidated, men who will not be ashamed to cry and say, I am struggling with this and I need some help here. Yeah. Because that's what society is lacking at the moment.
And I think let me just maybe explain it this way, that I think what's happening is that the man is crying out for his role. He does not know it, but he's crying out for his role because he can no longer lead. He can no longer protect because he has become his own enemy. And I speak this both as a victim, but also I speak also as somebody who in my life, I've done things which have not necessarily elevated what I'm trying to say right now. So I speak from an area of learning and saying that this is what needs to be taught to society. This is what needs to be explained to the man. The man is crying out. He has no idea what he's doing. I explained before, the group of people who stripped those ladies, I'm sure half of them went out into a strip club downtown and looked at ladies who were naked. So it cannot be the act. It was not the way the ladies were dressed. It's something inside them which was talking. Because if it was not, they would have been happy. They would have walked around town shouting at the ladies, as they do in the club.
In fact, you take this incident and use it as an example. But what was interesting is that in relation to this particular incident or a series of incidents is that there had been a build-up of cases, particularly in Dandora and in that area, of cases of mass rapes. In fact, it had become so endemic, the girls were being pulled, reports were being received of girls being pulled out of Batatus and literally being taken round the corner by gangs of children as young as 13, being raped and released during the day. The girls no longer bother to report to the police officers because no action is taken. In fact, their greatest cry was for antiretroviral drugs and abortion clinics so that they could at least mitigate the damage that had been done to them. So perhaps there is, as you've rightly pointed out, what has been a build-up to bring us to this current position. But I'm going to say this because you've said it first. Men need to figure out their own role. Women needed to get to the point where they said no. No more being hit. No more rule of thumb, which is that a good man will hit you with a stick that is not thicker than his arm, than his thumb. Although,
Renee, let me just jump in and just interject. Now, while that is true, there is a wrong perception being peddled, and I'd love to basically, in Kiswahili we say kukosoa, my friend Steve Harvey. He says, act like a lady, think like a man. I want to tell the ladies, don't. Act like a lady, think like a lady. That man should act like a man. Don't try to do things to make him change. Because by you doing that, you're now getting into the fight which he's been waiting for. And that's where the action starts. Then we start fighting with the man. Because you're trying to think like him. So he looks at you as competition. You're now measuring each other. Oh, she came home with a new, okay, so I'll do this, I'll do that.
So that's great, because it dovetails to exactly what the point is, which is redefining leadership, redefining provision, redefining protection. In this era where, like you rightly pointed out, you've got a lot of women going to night school, bettering themselves, getting bigger positions. How do you redefine leadership as men so that you continue to remain relevant at home and in position? It's trite saying to say, go to night school as well. But it's more than that. How do you redefine leadership? How do you redefine provision? How do you redefine priesthood, as you call it? No matter what your belief is or whether you do have a belief in God or not. How do you redefine values as a man in modern day living? How do you do that?
In my opinion, I think one of the first things that you need to do as a man is knowing and understanding your role as a man. In that respect of being a priest, protector, and provider, what are you doing in those areas? How are you bettering yourself to be able? I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're married to a woman who is a leader in a corporate organization. At the end of the day, whether she earns more than you or not, you will still have to perform the role of a provider, priest, and protector. And that comes as an inherent value system that you need to, you see, men, we have relaxed. I mean, and I mean, we come and say, you know what, my wife earns good money, so I won't do nothing and I will sit back. And that's wrong. I mean, it doesn't matter whether she is a senior person than you are in society or not, but take up your role. Be a leader, be a provider, be a protector. It doesn't matter whether you bring only 10 shillings on the table, but be able to take responsibility and lead, guide, mentor, be the father, okay? I always say, any person, anything, any animal can be a father, but it takes a special breed of a human being to be called a dad, to be able to be called a father and more so a dad, so that you are able to mentor, you're able to grow, to nurture. Young girls are not afraid of you because you're going to abuse them. They come to you for protection. They come to you for values. They know you're going to teach them 3-4 things about life. You're going to, nurture their spirit. You're going to love on them with the love of the Father. And that comes from stepping away from just these ego contests that men have to a place where you're saying, you know what, we need to bring society to a place of responsibility, to a place of being able to take action where there is an issue as men, and then teach the young men of society and the young boys of society. And like I said, this is not going to take 1 or 2, 3, 4 years. It's going to take, it's like a generation, a whole generation. It's a generational
in the same way
thing.
that
Exactly.
the focus of the girl child was
absolutely
generational.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the last sort of 2 minutes, so really a last word from you, Ted.
Well, for me, I think I wanted to share with you 1 Corinthians 13:11, which says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For the men in this country, it's time for you to become a man and give up childish ways. God has made you perfect in who you are, and He's made you complete in who you are. And He's given you the ability to be able to be a man. So let's get out of that place of childishness and move to where God wants us to be.
Big Ted, Flavor Mangoli, thank you ever so much. We'll be continuing these conversations both on air and online. If you want to catch more of them, and also if you want to make a response, lots of which came through Twitter, and thank you ever so much to everyone who's tweeted to us. If you do, well, you can follow us at Capital FM Kenya, and also on Facebook as well, Capital FM Kenya. We continue these debates, like I said, on air and online. Let's talk about how, not just to solve the boy-child problem or the men problem, let's talk about how to create the society that we can be proud of, truly proud of, as Kenyans. Thank you for watching.